I'm Meryl Hathaway, and joining me are Mike and Leah of Two Trees PPC. How are you guys doing this morning?
Doing good. How are
Friday.
you?
Yeah, happy Friday.
Yeah.
And we have an exciting guest today. So today we have Trishul Vadi, a practicing osteopath and chiropractor in the UK. He received a bachelor's of osteopathy from HRH Princess Anne and set up a family practice in West Wickham called the Avid Clinic, where he still thrives today. He then went to Oxford while running his clinic to study a chiropractic course, receiving a master's in 2012 and making him just one of 3 practitioners in the UK qualified in both osteopathy and chiropractic. He has since taught at the European School of Osteopathy and led many students into the profession and in some cases to work at Avid Healthcare with him. In 2016, Avid was recognized by the Institute of Osteopathy as one of the UK's leading osteopathic clinics. Let's welcome Trishul. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. My gosh, you guys do your homework, eh? I was not expecting that introduction. Wow. I don't think I could. That's it. Job done. That's it. That's everything about it.
Mic drop.
Just a few bullet points, baby. Just a few bullet points. So, Trishul, just start our show. We're going to play Getting to Know You. So I'm going to ask you a series of this or that questions, and you're going to just answer them with your first instinct response. Don't have to think too hard, okay? You ready?
Cool. Let's go. Let's do it.
All right. Number 1, tablet or laptop?
Laptop.
Instagram or TikTok?
TikTok.
Neck pops or back cracks?
Back cracks.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
9 to 5 or 10 to 6?
5 to 9.
My brain twisted for a second.
I know, I was like,
wait. Bollywood or Hollywood?
Bollywood.
Netflix or YouTube?
YouTube.
Restorative or preventative?
Preventative.
I like it. All right.
Yeah.
I got to know why preventative is the answer.
Because it's true for everything, like whether it be for health, whether it be for life in general, like if you've been around, one of the things that fascinates me about is I like to study experts in their fields. And I've always found a trend, which is those who've been around long enough know that the way they adapt and how they intuitively know what's going to happen, they'll prevent things happening before that problem's arisen.
Right.
So that's just like, it just makes sense. Why, it's like the old saying, a stitch in time saves 9. Why not want to do the 1 rather than the 9? It just makes sense.
It does make sense,
That's a really good
especially when you think about nutrition. I think all the time about like just the fact that so many health problems in our country would have been solved had we not been eating Cheetos for so long. And it's just like, it's all preventative. We just never thought of it that way. So, all right,
Yeah.
let's play our next game called Humble Beginnings. So,
Okay, cool.
why don't you fill us in on your humble beginnings? What was your very first job ever?
My very first job ever was literally assisting my dad in his pharmacy. So my dad's a pharmacist. And so 2 things. 1, whether you know anything about family businesses, or 2, about Asian parents. The fact is that you just get involved and stuck in no matter what. So it was really fascinating. I didn't know it was my job until I was a late teenager. And this is like when I was in, under 10. So although the child labor laws might get involved, so we've got to be mindful about that. But essentially what would happen is, whether it be like my mom telling me to vacuum their house or my dad telling me to go and straighten stuff on the shelves for their products, I didn't know any different. It was a chore or a task, or whatever was a chore or a task, It wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm coming to work for you. It was really weird. I remember at school, one of my friends kind of let slip that his parents paid him to wash their car. I'm like, wait, you can get paid for that? Like, I've been doing all this stuff for free. Like, what's going on? And that was just like, a home chore thing. So I think work and stuff has been in my blood, in my life ever since day one. My parents have been really hardworking. They always had a family business. And even in terms of like childcare and things like that, again, it sounds like it wasn't a bad childhood. It was awesome. But, I was there in a dispensary with in a box with it sounds bad. It was a big box, but with a toy and stuff, I was there with them the whole time. So all that stuff, just by osmosis, you kind of trickle in, and And it's kind of like why I answered the other question that you gave me. The 5 to 9 is just because life is life. It's not one or the other. It's just we do what we do because you with it, you know?
Yeah.
Great
So
answer, yeah.
all of those things said, obviously it sounds like your family had a lot to do with a lot of the direction of your life. So what led you into your current practice of being an osteopath and chiropractor?
So the fascinating thing was when I was around 6 or 7 years old, um, I had bereavement, somebody really, really close to us, and the whole thing at that age, you want to be the superhero. You want to be like, the Bollywood hero. Like, I'm going to save the world from having to have this problem, like whether it be people suffering with that pain, but also the pain of loss for the family to experience of a loved one leaving them. So I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And long story short, that was just always in my background. So when it came to figuring out what I'm going to be doing at college, what I'm going to specialize in, I was like, do I become a medic? Do I become a dentist? And all those different things. And I think this is a classic case of mums know best, So my mum was like, hey, listen, your brother and I are going to an osteopath. Why don't you come and see what it's like? I think it could be good. And initially I was like, ew, no, I don't want to touch people. I don't want to be massaging them. Like, my life's better than that, And that was so ignorant of me to think that's what it was. And it was really cool when I went to see them at their session. It was so funny. I remember because this osteopath was working on my mom's knee, and he was obviously very experienced, very, very expert at what he was doing. But he was casually doing conversation with us. And I'm like, dude, like, why are you not focusing on what you're doing with my mom's knee right now? Because I'm worried you're going to I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, you're like really worried, but obviously he's done it a million times before. And now I can relate to what he was doing. So the funny thing was, so he goes to me, listen, if you're interested in this sort of career, why don't you go down to one of the universities? So at the time, it was the first university outside of the US, and it's the oldest university outside of the US that offers osteopathy. So I went along for an open day, and it was really, I think this is one of the things that life just, you go into flow and life just happens for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just slotted in. It just worked, So I went for the open day. I was like, wow, there's like even more going on through this. I'm really fascinated. They then invited me in for an interview. The interview went awesomely, and they said, hey, you got an unconditional offer. So it means basically that once you get your grades, doesn't matter what grades you have, you got to place no matter what. I'm like, okay. And I'm starting off the course, not still quite knowing what it can do. And it's a 4-year course. So you start seeing patients in your 3rd and 4th year. And that's when, for me, it really took off from wow, there's a lot of power in this stuff. And that sounds like really woohoo, but when you just have somebody in front of you, who goes, you've changed my life, that hits you on a different level.
Oh.
And also humbly, you got to go, wow, it's not just me, but it's the application of what other people have done in the past that you've brought on, and you've just had the opportunity to provide that to this person. And that stays with me now. It just, you kind of get imposter syndrome. As confident and excited I am, I still feel like, but it's not me. I'm just doing what somebody else has taught me to do, and I'm just doing it here. It's very weird.
Yeah.
But it's nice having that groundedness and knowing that, look, it's a great opportunity to help people and do it in our own way. We all do our own thing. And that was really, that's where it all started off. So that's the initial thing. The interest in the chiropractic, though, was once I'd been working for a little while in the clinic, I realized I was getting really good results, but I wasn't getting the great results I really wanted. There was just something, I couldn't put my finger on it. There was something I couldn't quite do quite right. And I was just thinking there's something missing. And so I went on this exploration. I thought, okay, what can I do differently? What's out there that I haven't really touched upon yet? And I was fascinated about chiropractors and how their philosophy was very similar yet different to osteopathy. And, I was just trying to figure out that, some people think there's this rivalry between the two professions. Whether there is or isn't, I never got into anything in life because of politics. I just got into it because I want to help someone. So I was like, hey, let me just find out what I can gain from this, dismiss the rest, what I can gain from this, dismiss the rest, combine the best of both. provide it, test it. Does it work? Wow, it does. Great. Or doesn't work? Remove that, and then keep going from there. You know, like constant, never-ending improvement, basically. So that's been really cool.
So let me ask the question then, what is the difference between osteopathy and chiropractic?
So it depends on who you speak to. It's
From your perspective.
from me. So when I observe the professions, and if I was in a room full of just the professionals, I think there is a lot of them would feel very egoistic about their own thing and be like, this is the best, this is the best. And I think that's a very dangerous game to play. I never was into life about that. I'm like, we need to remove that and go, well, I don't care what's the best. Let's figure out the best technique or the approach. The other thing is what's really interesting is that both osteopathy and chiropractic in the wider public arena are misunderstood as techniques. So somebody imagines, oh, if I go to a chiropractor, they're going to snap my back. And that's not, in fact, for the course I did, I was never taught that in chiropractic college. I was taught that in osteopathic college. And so then it's not the technique, it's the philosophy of why you're applying that technique on that person.
That's why people take
So,
it so personally, because it's a
yeah,
philosophy. I was just wondering
exactly.
why there's so much like, because I picture this. I know I've had this conversation with people before where they're like, oh, chiropractic care is, it's BS, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's not, first of all.
Well,
You have to
the
go to school
interesting
for a
thing,
long time to get all of these
yeah,
skills. It's not like an
yeah,
easy.
and I think even since I've been in the profession, there's been so much more. I mean, granted, both in the UK at least, both the professions, the regulatory bodies from a governing body point of view are fairly new. They've only been around since the 90s. So it's
Oh.
not that new. You know, before that, in the 80s, any one of us could have called ourselves an osteopath or a chiropractor, and that title wasn't legally protected. So for the public, anyone could do it. But the fascinating thing about this again is, so my wife's a dentist, and I think if you were to go to a dentist and you just happen to have a not so good experience, you wouldn't go, dentistry doesn't work for me, I'm never going to see a dentist again. You would go, oh, I just didn't like that particular approach of that specific dentist.
Yeah.
And I think what happens in osteopathy or chiropractic, we go, I don't like osteopaths, I don't like chiropractors, but actually you may have just had one approach by one practitioner, and they've had to prove themselves because they've not only gone through a degree, but then we have to register with the regulatory body. And every year we have to tell them and prove to our regulatory bodies to keep our registration. At least in the UK, the law is that we have to submit minimum 30 hours of continuing professional development. So showing that we're studying, we're interacting with other team members or community and members of our profession or other professions, learning, adapting. So we're staying current. It's not like, oh yeah, we're just going to go in and do that. For any layperson, for any profession, it just always seems simple when an expert is doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was to look at a surgeon, you think, oh yeah, just cut people open, do the thing, and then close them up. But there's obviously way more than that goes behind the scenes, and I think that's true for any profession.
Yeah, definitely. How often are you getting new patients in and versus old patients returning? And how do you get those new patients to know about you guys?
So I was really, really fortunate when I graduated in 2006 as an osteopath, because my mum already had a really thriving business of her own, separate from our family pharmacy business. Because when my brother and I were old enough to look after ourselves, my mum went back to study. Mike will definitely know about this because we've known each other for a while. And mum started off her business from home so she could manage us, manage the family, manage her own business. So what happened was her beauty business grew from that one room at home to eventually a 6 room building that we custom made together. So that was in 2000, we moved into that 6 room building. So then when I graduated in 2006, my mom said, listen, there's a room here if you want it to start up your own clinic. And I'm like, that's a no-brainer. I would be crazy not to, make utilize. And one of the reasons I wanted to go into the profession was to eventually have my own business. I was like, well, this just fast tracks it. Like in anything, no entrepreneur really knows what we're doing. So I was like, hey, I'll give this a go. We'll figure it out along the way, right? So for that reason, because there was already a buzz about in the beauty business that, hey, Asha's son is going to be graduating as an osteopath soon. Oh yeah, I'd like to come and see him, all the rest of it. So there's quite an organic growth from that point of view. And my mum had done such a great job of her reputation, her business and her brand locally, that it was quite a nice thing to come along with. But having said that though, it wasn't as cushy as it seems, because I was so excited. I was like, great, I've got my business cards, I've got my logo, I've got my business name, I've got people working with me, and then nothing. For 5 weeks, nothing happened. I remember for 5 full weeks, the first phone call that came through wasn't even a booking. It was someone going, oh, can you treat this? Can you do this? Oh, okay, great. I'll get back in touch with you. And suddenly your heart just sinks. You're like, oh my gosh, what have I done? You know? Mm-hmm. And so I realized that a lot of that buzz was nice, but it didn't really come to fruition until I started really educating people of what we could do. And so, you know, fast forward to where we are now, you know, word of mouth is massive for us. We're very fortunate that we're living in an era where we've got things like Google reviews, and we've got one of the best Google reviews in the area, which is really humbling as well. I remember when our very first testimonial way back, I would do video testimonials. This is way back in 2006 when no one was doing these, you know?
Yeah.
And I just put the camera in front of this patient. I said, look, do you mind just telling people like you who are suffering, you know? And they started talking about all these other lifestyle changes that they've had. And I said, I didn't even realize that we had that effect on people, like, you know? And that made me realize that there was way even more power than I thought there was in this stuff. You know, I've had patients tell me that, hey, do you know what, Trishul, you've treated my grandson. I'm like, oh, really? What's his name? Let me look him up in the system. Oh, no, you never met him. I'm like, what? What do you mean I've not met him? He goes, no, well, I didn't tell you. I know I've been seeing you about my low back, but whilst you've been looking after me, because you have a holistic approach, you look at everything, you actually improved my shoulder, which I didn't realize was as bad as it was until I started playing catch with my grandson in the park. And now that I can throw better, he can now, and he was like 4 or 5 or something like that. And he's like, you know, he can play catch. So now you've helped him by helping me. And I was like, whoa, what's like, this is something like, you know, you're right, you know? And I'm like, okay, so the power of what we're doing is even greater than I could imagine. So it's just really nice that people go and share that experience with other people, to tell people about it. And the nice thing about that is that we're in a place where we're growing from that point of view, you know, that we help families, you know, that's what it's about. And the fascinating thing, sorry, I was just going to say, the fascinating thing about this as well, there's different types of clinics. So, you know, you've got pain-based clinics and you've got wellness clinics, and both are right in their own philosophies down to what the ethos of that is. Coming from a pharmacy background, for me, ethically, I could never be a pain-based clinic, because for somebody to pay privately for a session with us, it's way more expensive than paying like 30 pence for a packet of painkillers, which they could purchase from the pharmacy, which would achieve the painkilling effect, but that's not health. And so for me, the health and wellness is much, much more than, and that's what came through, filtered through from all the feedback I was getting from patients of the difference we make with them. You know, I've had patients who said that you've treated my knee without touching my knee because you checked my back. And by the way, my heartburn's been less since I've been coming to see you, that I've had for 20 years. I'm like, literally the only change that you made has been coming to see us and taking on our advice. Like, that's something else, you know?
Yeah, my question is what are patients experiencing before they come to you? Like, what is it that triggers in their brain, like, I need to look up Avid and go see Avid? What is it that they're experiencing?
So up until recently, up until maybe 2 years, it would be like, okay, I've got back pain, or I've got neck pain, I've got some sort of symptom. Let me Google where I can go and get that sorted out. The last 2 years have been really fascinating from 2 fronts. One is all the Facebook groups locally. It's like, hey, can anybody recommend a chiropractor or an osteopath or whatever it might be? Or it's been like, more recently even, people are like, oh, so I've seen your video on TikTok and I've seen you do that. I want that done. Or I've seen a chiropractor in the US and I found you locally and I want to come in and get that done there, and that kind of stuff. So it's been a real interesting shift of, or I think the public have definitely changed in terms of being more ready to share their experience. So there's much more information around what we do. But I think at the same point, there's a lot of misunderstanding of what we do as well. And so people think they want to come in and get things done. Or even if someone says, "Oh, I want to get my neck cracked," or "Oh, you're not going to crack my neck, are you?" I'm like, "Well, no, I'm not a ninja, so I will tell you what I'm going to be doing every time I do anything. I need your permission as a professional to do anything anyway." So, it's interesting. It's like a different approach more recently.
Okay.
And Trishul, how do you use the entire world of social media? Because we know you're using it to your advantage, and you answered TikTok. So tell us about you and TikTok.
TikTok, I tell you why I said TikTok is because as much as we've been using social media over the years, the only real I've had a really good relationship with TikTok. I'll put it that way. I think they were kind enough to reach out to me on a different level than I've seen any other social media company work. And actually, via that, I've been really excited that I've been given the opportunity to call some big influencers friends of mine and get to know them well and get to know how they work. And the funny thing is that it's, when we think, oh my gosh, that person's got 30 million followers or whatever it is, you kind of go, okay, I'm a nobody. But actually, they're literally the same. It's like, it's really weird in the social media world that these big names are like so easily reachable, contactable, helpful. Like we'll DM each other and help each other out. I've got their personal numbers and stuff like that. It's really fascinating.
But how do you go from I'm going to sign up for TikTok to DMing and texting with influencers? I mean, there's a big jump there. So how did you get to that?
Well, so a couple of things. So with TikTok, the cool thing, I think TikTok have been very, very smart about the way they've done everything so far. I think they've been very smart about the initial setup of you linking your Instagram and YouTube. Why not link in everything else? It was only those two that you could link your accounts with. And so where you can't DM on TikTok somebody who's not following you back, you had to then go to Instagram and DM them there. So a couple of people that I reached out to who had a few million followers on TikTok didn't have as many on Instagram. So when I DM'd them on Instagram, they were much more responsive because it would pop up. It was a bit more easy to see. But having said that, what was really nice of TikTok was there was some of their marketing team actually reached out directly to me. And it was really weird because within TikTok, there was like hey, you have a message directly from TikTok. Like, whoa, it's like, what is this? And they invited me down to their headquarters in London, which is their HQ for all of Europe, actually, which turns out. And so I hung out with them, but they invited me into a group. So we're working with each other to help each other grow. And then we got invited to events. So that's where you're meeting even bigger influencers going, hey, oh my gosh, I know you from wherever it is. And then you get direct physical face-to-face contact. Like, is it cool if I get in touch with you for help and stuff? So that's how it came about.
So what was it though about your account that TikTok reached out to you? I mean, again, that's not
I'm scared.
normal.
I've been scared to ask that question. I don't know. I don't know what's...
Okay.
Was it the engagement that you were receiving?
I guess so. I think I don't know exactly what it was. I did ask that question, and they said, well, do you know what? We just look for a variety of different users, and so in the friends that I made through TikTok, none of them were health professionals. So I think what they might have liked was the way that I not only created the posts and content, but the engagement that I got. But then me putting in the work of doing my best to reply to every single comment I could. And in some cases on TikTok initially, I had comments in all different languages. So I would literally copy that comment, go into Google Translate it, translate my message back into their language and paste it back. And I'm fingers crossed, no one said anything bad. So hopefully it's worked out okay.
Yeah, they must have noticed this.
I was just
incredible engagement right there. So
yeah, so it was hard work, like spending hours and hours, and it's something that is important. Goes back to my ethos. If I can help people out in any which way I can, then that's the main thing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So being that you're in wellness, I always think this is a really important and interesting question to ask. What do you do for your own wellness to make sure that you are well enough to take care of all of your patients?
So if anybody follows me on my stories will know that I definitely wake up pretty early by UK standards. And the reason is because I'm a morning person. So if I don't get my stuff done in the morning for myself, then I won't get done the rest of the day. And I normally work till about 8 p.m. anyway on most days. So I'll make sure I get up. I'll make sure I'm hydrating myself throughout the day, but also getting my exercise in the morning. And more recently, I've been really focusing on working smarter. And as the business has grown, and we've been in a really fortunate position where, there's been so many job losses and things that we've been able to actually help people who are losing jobs, because we're growing. We're one of those companies that are actually still growing. So as we've been able to employ more people, it helps me shift my position here. So it's more about me nurturing them as a team to be able to maximize and magnify what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And so the ability to then have that headspace away from the clinical work and more on the business is really important, the balance of it. And I was just watching Karate Kid, one of my all-time favorite movies, and it's all about balance. And Mr. Miyagi saying to Daniel-san, it's all about balance, and that's about life, not just about on the beam and the beach to do the crane movement. But yeah, that's a whole other story.
So do you get chiropractic treatments yourself?
I do. I just had one on, where are we? Yesterday. Yeah, I'll make sure my team will adjust me. And whenever I see my friends elsewhere, 100%. But at the same time, I'll make sure I'll go down the corridor to see my wife for my teeth and all the rest of it too. Mm-hmm. We make sure we look after each other. The products and the creams that my mum recommends, I've been using them since I was 15. So everything that we use here in our business is actually stuff that we've either found for ourselves that's really, really powerful. So we thought, oh my gosh, other people need this. Or we've thought, wow, this is really neat, that people need this sort of thing. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's good to know. I mean, even you have to take care of yourself to be able to take care of anybody else. It's a rule of thumb for being a human, but it's interesting to hear from a wellness practitioner, all of those things. So,
and it's easy to let it run away with you as well, because you can kind of get so lost in the work that you forget about yourself, and then you pay the consequences of that too, So that's a good lesson to avoid.
So let's move into our segment called Shout Out. So this is a segment of our show when Leah will give us a shout out to a small business from a member of the Black, Indigenous, or person of color community that is nailing their niche, who we think more people should know about and go find. So Leah, who are we going to shout out this week?
Yeah, so this week we are shouting out Melanin Markets. Melanin Markets believes that all businesses are entitled to thriving in the online space, regardless of their background, racial diversity, or financial power. At Melanin Markets, every vendor, every seller, every business, and every customer has an even level playing field, and they have lowered all barriers of entry for everyone. Melanin Markets' vision is to make e-commerce easy for Black-owned businesses, galvanize our voices as one, and use that power to influence the world against racism, fascism, and gender-biased discrimination. It is where the story of the online economic freedom fight begins, and they believe together they'll make an impactful effect on the world. So with Melanin Markets, their intention on their website is to be laser-focused marketing strategy to never before access markets, increase a business's reach, and enhance your voice as a powerful force in the e-commerce world, raise alarms against discriminatory activities in the online commerce world as well, distribute all types of products to marginalized communities in the USA and beyond any type of racial profiling, enhance marketing efforts for all businesses to bigger markets, and ensure every business and vendor gets a share of the cake. And they also minimize the cost of doing business in the e-commerce for all types of businesses and different types of industries. And so you can reach them at melaninmarkets.com, and they also have a Instagram, which is melanin.markets.
Amazing mission. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Yeah, it's
so
really
that'll
awesome.
definitely be up on our social. And now let's move into our last game of the show, Branded. So here are some multiple choice questions I'm going to give you. Really just all about wellness or surrounding the wellness world. You ready?
I'm good. Yes, go.
All right. Number one, what is the single leading cause of disability worldwide, preventing many people from engaging in work as well as other everyday activities? Is it A, depression, B, back pain, or C, arthritis?
Back pain.
You are correct.
However,
the single leading cause.
However, that I have a gripe with that answer, because one of the things that I've been trying to push more recently for the last few years is the terminology of back pain in conversations getting used as a condition as opposed to being a symptom. So you'll hear in the news or anywhere, like the cure for back pain, but that doesn't make sense fundamentally
No.
because back pain is due to many different causes. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely.
So,
That makes a lot of sense.
but yeah,
Yeah. But I mean, which is crazy though, how many different things lead to the symptom of back pain.
100%.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
So number 2, what percentage of people believe they are in excellent or very good health? This is in general. What percentage of people have been excellent or very good health? Is it A, 68%, B, 26%, or C, 56%?
Oh, this is a hard one.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm going to go, I don't know. I feel like I might be off, but I'm going to go 56%.
You are correct. That's right.
Wow.
Just
Okay.
over half of people say
Wow.
they're in excellent or very good health, which I have to laugh at because
I thought it was going to be 26 because I would think people would humble themselves and be like,
no,
not too
no. Yeah, they think they're fine. They don't know. They all have back pain. What are they talking about?
Well, do you know what's interesting is they've done studies on patients who are asymptomatic, so have no symptoms at all. And they've done scans of their spines and they've found similar or a very, very similar degeneration in their spinal discs as those who are suffering incredibly with their symptoms. So they found that actually the degeneration that's going on underneath, some people are completely oblivious to it.
Yeah.
And so it's really fascinating from that point of view. When people come to me,
sensitivity, right, is all
absolutely,
everybody.
yeah, absolutely.
I'm the one who'd be weeping on the ground, being like, I just can't, it hurts. And then someone sitting next to me, they're like, I'm fine, do you want a cookie? And I'm like, I can't even eat. Like that's all right, number 3, in what year was the first chiropractic adjustment given? It was by Daniel David Palmer, the father of chiropractic, who helped a janitor, Harvey Lillard, regain his hearing after a back injury he suffered 17 years prior. What year was this? Was it A, 1766, B, 1895, or C, 1908?
1895.
You are correct, sir.
That's like a lot of pressure on that one. A lot of pressure on that question.
I know, but you nailed it. I love it. And lastly, the word osteopath comes from the Greek word osteo, meaning what? A, optimal, B, bones, or C, structure?
Bone.
It's structure.
Osteo.
I know. Yeah.
Wait, what?
I know. I threw it in
No.
because in the description, it has bone in the description, but it's technically structure, which I thought was really crazy because I pictured it being that way too.
Wait,
And
let
when
me
you look
Google
up
that.
the definition,
Yeah.
No, wait.
I tricked
I can't
him.
be wrong.
Basically. No, I tricked him.
I mean, the bones build up a structure.
Exactly, which is why it was very hard by me throwing in both of them.
But wait, it says bone.
See, and in some it says bones and some it says structure in the definition. So it's very confusing, but technically you're really basically right if you answer either one. Because if you explain us to, here, make yourself feel better. How do you explain?
No, I feel bad. I'm done.
That's it. What a bad weekend you're gonna have.
No, just as we finish, give us the definition of osteopathy. Because I will say again, I've only really ever been referred to, when it comes to certain conditions, to a chiropractor. I've never been referred to an osteopath. So I genuinely wanted this one to finish out with more of a clarification of what osteopathy is specifically versus the chiropractic.
Well, here's the interesting thing though. See, in the US, in terms of now, in modern living, is different than in the UK.
Oh,
So
interesting.
the professions are quite different because in the US, if you want to become a medical doctor,
Yeah.
you can be a medical doctor or an osteopathic doctor, and the training, from my understanding, is very, very similar, except the osteopathic doctor will still learn about surgery, pharmaceuticals, all the rest of it, but they'll also have the ability to physically manipulate your joints. Whereas over here, it's different. So you go to medical school to study to become a medical doctor, or you go to an osteopathic school only to learn the manipulation and that kind of side of things. You don't get to do the surgery or the prescription stuff here. There is conversations around that right now, but that's not coming to full force play right here. So in that respect, osteopaths and chiropractors here are a bit more similar. Whereas over
Okay.
there, osteopathic doctors and medical doctors are a bit more similar in that way.
Yeah, okay.
makes
That
sense.
makes more sense to me. Thank you for clarifying.
That's okay. So
So,
that's the interesting thing. So I had friends as well who their entire family are all medical doctors, and one of them's become an osteopathic doctor, but he's actually working just the same way they would, or because he's not really doing much of the manipulation stuff because he's still slotted in with the whole kind of allopathic approach, if you like. So
so
yeah.
one question that just brought up for me real quick is if you could then go to school and learn the surgical side of things, is that something that interests you or it does not? No, you're shaking your head adamantly no.
But not because I'm against surgery. And let me
Okay.
just clarify on that. I think surgery definitely has its place, and I think it's great when it's needed, and I'm all for it. But I'm also on the side of if we can prevent surgery,
Oh, yeah.
and you know the surgeons are going to be like, yeah, if we can prevent surgery, let's prevent it. If we can avoid it, I mean, some people, hey, look, we can do only so much, then we have to refer on.
Right.
But if we can avoid getting to that point, again, the risks of surgery are going to be greater than what we do anyway. So it's like, let's just look at the risk to benefit ratio of anything. Our job is literally, and my job has always been, look, I'll tell the patient what I know, but they ultimately still have to decide what they think is best for them. If they feel, actually, I just had the surgery, cool, that's not us. Let's have you go do that.
Plus
But
surgeries
yeah, no,
are like bloody and gross.
yeah, but you know, a little bit of gore is always nice, right? That's okay.
For some. So, okay, so Trishul, how can the folks at home find you, follow you, ask you questions, all the things? Tell them where they can find you.
On any social, I'm at Trishul Vadi. So please do get in touch and tell me that you found me on this show, and I will be even more nice and special to you.
Oh,
I'm really
Look at
happy to help anyone, anywhere. And actually, what's really interesting and during lockdown is we've adapted and tweaked to being able to help people online anywhere. And the interesting thing about this is that when I've been treating people online, their response is like, whoa, I feel like I just had a physical adjustment, although you haven't touched me with your hands.
whoa.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
That's
awesome.
That's very cool.
I'd pay
Yeah.
a copay for that.
Is that just with stretching?
No,
Or
it's more than that. Because see, the thing is that when you understand how the body works, so you've got the physical, which we kind of easily understand, but you also have the biochemical and you have the emotional. So those two components, if you can affect those things, which you don't need a physical element to, the physical you can still affect, quite right, with exercises and movements, but those two are still very powerful, which you can easily affect in any scenario, whether it's online or in person. So the response is the same, which is really cool.
Wow. I would not have thought
Yeah, that
was
opens a
possible.
whole. Yeah, I
you just
hope.
like open
Yeah.
up the psychology of what you do.
Yeah.
But it comes back to what Meryl was saying, like, you know, where she might be like, oh my gosh, I'm crying in pain, and somebody else be like, oh no, I'm fine. But they experience the same scenario, but the meaning we're giving it is two different things.
Yeah.
You know?
And everyone's
And-
threshold is totally different. And
Yeah, absolutely.
all of it. Wow.
And historically, everything that we perceive, this kind of gets into like deeper philosophical conversations, but you know, everything we understand is the way that our brain processes the world around us. And that's just super fascinating to me, because I have people coming in with all different types of scenarios. And it's like, well, okay, how can we adapt that to help them for their lifestyle goals, right?
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
So what, we'll finish out with this one last question. Trishul, what is your most popular TikTok video? What are you doing in this video that got so many people involved to be going all over town about it?
Like one that I posted?
Yeah.
So this is really weird. So if you want, you can scroll back. My very first TikTok was literally, because I had no idea, like, what's this app all about? So I was literally just mucking around with it. And there's me in my pajamas jumping on my rebounder in my bed, in my living room. Like that was my very, very first TikTok. And I was still trying to figure stuff out. And I was doing all these stupid, cheesy, like wearing sunglasses, not wearing them, all that kind of stuff. Then I posted a video of me adjusting one of my team members, and that went like, got like over 9 million views, got like all these comments, and I was like, whoa. And it was, I think, not too long after that, there was this whole craze on TikTok where all these kids were putting uncooked pasta shells in their mouths and going, hey mom, come and crack my back, and the whole thing. I think that might have helped my
Totally.
content, because
That's cool.
that wasn't me using the pasta shell. It was me doing the real thing.
Yeah.
And so I think there was a whole
Wow.
thing around that came about.
I forgot about
So,
that pod. That's great. That
right.
those were good videos. Those were
I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
deep dive. I never saw that. That
You-
sounds hilarious, though.
It's so
Really
funny.
weird.
Yeah.
Really weird.
Yeah.
Like the parents are like almost in tears when they like realize that their child may be like broken.
Oh my God. All right,
Yeah,
Trishul, close
okay.
us out. What advice do you have for any small business out there?
So keep your focus on a 5 or 10 or 15, 20 year, whatever your long-term goal is. Don't get lost in the current day-to-day, hour-to-hour, minute-by-minute noise, which is easily to get sucked into, which is not good for your business, not good for your employees, not good for your customers, not good for yourself. So focus on the big picture, focus on the main goals, and the answer will come through.
Love
I
that.
love it. Thank you so much for being here with us
Thank
today.
you. It's
And
been a
everybody
pleasure.
will find you on social media, watch you crack some backs and pop some necks. I'm all about it. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for your time, guys. Thanks for having me as well.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.